So, what does the future of your business look like? I'm willing to bet that it's almost certainly a very different future to what you thought it was going to be 12 months ago. Perhaps you're struggling to see how both existing and emerging technologies can benefit your business. Well, if you are, then you are not alone. BT's The Future in 2020 report aimed to take the tech pulse of UK business. The report showed that no technology has more than 30% penetration within the businesses surveyed, with the exception of VoIP, voice over IP, and AI in very large businesses, despite the potential of those technologies to fuel growth, productivity, and efficiency. So to help us understand why so many businesses seem reluctant to adopt new technologies right now, we are joined by Enterprise Voice and Collaboration Director at BT, Georgina Williams, MD of Security at BT, Kevin Brown, and BT CTIO, Fotis Karonis. Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello there. Good morning.
Good morning indeed. Right, Georgina, one of those emerging technologies that we're talking about is AllIP, and you are our resident expert there. So break it down for us. What does AllIP actually mean? And talk about the role that it's going to play in transforming how people work.
Sure. Thanks, David. So AllIP is essentially the decision that BT has made to decommission its legacy fixed voice network in 2025. So from that date, all voice traffic will travel over the internet or essentially a data connection. So really it's about modernising telephony into the software domain. This IP voice isn't a new technology. It's actually been around for over 10 years or so. And actually about 60% of the minutes that BT handle within our network is already IP based. So it's not new. It's worth remembering that our legacy network is more than 40 years old now. So it absolutely makes sense to protect customer service, to move to this new technology. And whilst lots of customers have already made that shift and or are thinking about it, as the survey says, it does mean that every single customer will have to move on to the new technology over the next 5 years. But, there's good news, right? These new IP services offer far greater flexibility than the legacy ones. Hosted IP voice products give businesses far greater flexibility because the telephony is not tied to a physical location anymore. So, and also pretty much all of these services now have integrated messaging and video and can be accessed from anywhere on pretty much any device over any data connection, which, as you can probably, in the current environment has been more important than ever. And with the advent of 5G and such brilliant broadband speeds that we have today, the quality is really good.
So it's an inevitable change. And you spoke there.
Yes.
There are quite a few benefits for businesses then.
There are, yeah. So aside from kind of the more obvious things around flexibility and productivity that you get from unifying all your communications into one place, there are loads of other benefits. So a lot of these services come with standard integrations out of the box. So as an application, these applications can integrate with other applications you might have. So for example, your CRM. So if you're in your CRM, you can click to call or perhaps view all your calls from a previous contact all in one place. Other examples include things like intelligent routing of calls. So this could be via a natural language processing or simply feeding your system with intelligence from somewhere else to help you understand maybe why a customer's calling you, so you can better route that call to the right person within your business and give the customer a better experience. There's also loads of options to create more bespoke integrations, like adding messaging rules into a contact center workflow or calling analytics. And the other thing to remember is that once voice is in that digital format, you can analyze it for things like sentiment or search for specific words or, and things like that for businesses can be hugely powerful.
Terrific stuff. Very quickly before we move on, Georgina, for any organisations that perhaps haven't begun their AllIP journey yet, what would you say is their starting point?
Well, I suppose just to put this into context, at BT, when we started our own internal journey, we had over hundreds of thousands of lines, right? So there's lots of experience out there and lots of help for people. What I would say is the starting point is really auditing what you've got today and trying to split out what you're using your lines for. So you'll have some that maybe are used for voice, others that may be used for things like PDQ or fax machines, others that maybe you're just using for broadband. So the first thing is really creating an audit of what you've got, and then you can start making rules around maybe what lines to migrate. So if a line hasn't been used, you haven't made any calls on it for the last 6 months, maybe you don't need it anymore. And then you can go through and categorize your different users into people that maybe just need a simple phone line, or somebody that needs a full collaboration service or something like call recording.
Sure.
And then you can start looking for the right solution to suit your needs. I would say, big tip is don't ignore or get caught out by any special cases. So, one of BT's examples, we found that we were using PSTN lines for monitoring equipment in petrol generators in the telephone exchanges. It's best not to leave those till the last minute. You really want to know about those now so you can start finding other alternatives. But there's loads of help available and lots of experience, and we've already done this for many, many customers. So you're not alone.
Terrific. Thank you very much indeed, Georgina. Kevin, the survey, it talks a lot about the barriers to adopting new technology, particularly the fears around cybersecurity. So what exactly is it that you think organisations are fearful of when it comes to cybersecurity?
Well, I think it's a great question, David, and good morning, everyone. You have that fear factor, which I think is still inherent at the moment. Most people wake up and you look at the newspaper headlines, which scares you. Although this morning, what great news on the increase on defence spending. So you look at it and say, well, the nation state attacks, the Fancy Bear, the APT-28, are they going to be coming after me? And of course, what about the massive fines if it goes wrong? So on one hand, how do I defend? And number two, am I really going to get fined? And I'd like to say that COVID has brought a change in it. It hasn't, because what it has identified is the criminals have invested heavily in technology, and therefore we've seen a massive surge, over 600% increase in email scams, 100% increase in ransomware and DDoS attacks, and about 400% increase in brute force attacks. So there's a lot going on. But bring it back to reality here. We know that over 90% of attacks are just exploiting poor basic hygiene. So you take that fear part that's out there. There's some perceived complications on where do I start? This is going to cost me millions of pounds to secure myself, and I simply can't afford it, or the project going to be too big. And then, as our report highlighted, 41% of organisations think that it's going to slow down their cloud migrations. People want to digitally transform at pace. Could be because the business driver is needing them to act quicker, and security, could it be slowing me down? So I think at the moment the biggest barrier is for organisations to be able to look beyond the hype hysteria and say, actually, how can security be that enabler for us to be conducting good digital transformation?
Speaking of surveys, I'm just taking a look at the results of the poll as they're coming in. 275 responses so far. Thank you so much for your thoughts so far. And I'm looking to see, we were asking about the main barrier holding back businesses from adopting digital strategies over the next 5 years. Security concerns, Kevin, is rather lamely in last position, with only 7% of our audience watching today feel as though that is one of the barriers. I'll ask you for your comment on that in just a moment, but in the report, 56% of businesses surveyed said that cybersecurity has impacted their team's workloads over the last year. So comment on the quite low perception of security concerns holding businesses back, but also about what BT is able to do to help lighten the workload for those businesses that acknowledge that security is placing a burden on their teams.
Yeah, it's a great question. I speak to many CISOs and indeed CIOs, and indeed smaller business who really grapple with this. I think that actually people recognise that security have a role in their organisation. I think is a massive step forward, whether it's a positive approach, a negative approach, but security being on the radar is it. is key. Now, from BT's perspective, one of the things that we're bringing, and we're doing this more and more, is to bring our experience and our trust to the people that we support, the organisations we support. The experience comes from the fact that actually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're having to defend BT. We're dealing with around 6,500 cyber attacks a day across the 180 countries that we operate from, and majority come in here in the UK. We can do this by leveraging the best of people, process and technology. It's that blend where the magic happens. And we're privileged where actually we can see further. We see further than many other people. On average, about 15 terabits of data passing our network every second. So we start to see those trends. Albeit last week we peaked at around 18 terabits per second. And from a cyber perspective now, we're actually analysing about 1.8 million events per second, so 6.4 billion events per hour. We're analysing, we're looking for that needle in the haystack, and that's what really we want to be able to share. And then it comes back to trust, David. And our report highlighted that 54% of organisations look to security providers to support them on their cyber journey. That's fantastic, and to really see that it's about building the ecosystem. So we've done a lot of sharing of our thought leadership, sharing of our experiences, and certainly during the lockdown and the pandemic, we've talked a lot about how we in BT have turned on the human firewall to raise that sort of general colleague awareness and really help and make sure that BT has a 102,000 strong security workforce. And that's been key. And the sort of final bit I'll leave on this one, it's about understanding your business outcomes. It's not looking at security as it's security alone. Security is the enabler to you achieving your business outcomes. Everybody is on a journey on security. It's not a start and stop. It's an iteration, what you have. It's a constant involvement. And that's where actually we play a part in helping understand where customers are, the technologies they're looking to embrace, and how do you drive best value from that.
It's all part of a journey, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed. Fotis, couple of things. First of all, looking at, again, the results of our poll, we're asking about the main barriers right at the top there, with 1 in 4 people saying the financial climate is something that's holding people back from adopting digital strategies. Followed very, very closely by managing legacy technologies. So that uncertainty from a financial point of view and managing legacy technologies, certainly some big barriers there. And then, 1 in 5 in the survey were also saying that they aren't planning on adopting any new technologies over the next 5 years. What's going on here, do you think? Is there a sense of complacency? Is there apathy, naivety, or just fear about what's around the corner?
Hi, David. It's great to be on the call today. We've seen, first of all, companies are really wanting to go through digital transformation. But the technologies that we see, as you said, are not very familiar. So we're talking about, data, cloud, machine learning, AI, 5G, etc. So, the good thing is that we as BT have experienced already using those technologies as being a tech and communication company, and we can understand and provide a partnership relationship with our bigger customers or mid-range customers to explain the usage of that in terms of how can technology be part of the core strategy to unlock value, unlock innovation, unlock productivity, bring them closer to their customers. So these are technologies that are kind of complex as we see them individually, but we should see that bring them together, as Kevin said and Georgie, also around the cybersecurity part and the network part provides that glue, if I may call it, that enables these things to come to life. But it's important to also be a bit optimistic that 70% presume that they will use these technologies. So UK being one of the most advanced digital societies, I would say, in adoption of digital transactions and new experiences, I'm kind of optimistic that, using, especially going through this COVID pandemia, we will come out much stronger and much more digital connected.
Well, I want to talk about one of those emerging technologies that you referenced there, 5G. My question is this. 5G is obviously high on many people's agendas at the moment. Tell us where we're at right now. Is 5G mature enough so that it can be a game changer for business where we're at right now, end of 2020, beginning of 2021?
Yes. Again, yes, we were the first to launch 5G, one of the global, BT global operators. We launched in the UK in May 2019, so that's already, a year and a half. And again, 5G is a catalyst. It is a technology, of course, a new sort of carrier technology that enables the immense connectivity of different devices. So David and everybody, it's not just smartphones, but we will have, connected glasses, the automotive industry, there's dozens of chips inside. So the world is becoming hyper-connected in terms of the devices and the device connectivity. And 5G comes in as a standard to say, look, yes, we can provide this fantastic capacity to connect all those billions of devices. It provides ultra-reliable, low latency so that communications is coming in from a smart connectivity play into mission-critical operations. So that's actually profoundly transforming the industries themselves. So that means that our tech, let's say our connectivity, is not only stopping on the building, interconnecting the buildings, and of course having cybersecurity and ultra reliability, but it's actually becoming part of the operational technologies that actually are inside the factory, transforming healthcare, transforming the automotive, transforming the gaming industry, transforming transportation environment. So this is a new, profound, I would say, change. And therefore, our role as a communication provider, as a tech company, is to be the partner, strategic partner that we can think about the outcomes that Kevin also said about outcome-based. Yep. What are the things that we need strategically to think, and how do we partner to select the right technologies in the right pace and bring them to life for bringing the customer closer to that,
Okay, an exciting journey I think we're talking about with all three of you. Really, thank you very much indeed, Fotis. And to bring part one of our show to a close, I'm going to ask you a quick fire question and really a one-sentence answer, if you can, please. What's the one piece of advice that you can give to any of our audience watching on how to accelerate their digital transformation journey? Georgina.
I think just get started and talk to your employees and figure out what their problems are.
Very good. Thank you very much, Georgina. Kevin.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't do it alone. Lots of people are on the journeys. There's so much available to help you, whether it be from the NTSC, startup guides, cloud first adoption. Leverage the experience that's about there, talking to your peer colleagues, and that's going to help your journey.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And finally, Fotis.
Yes, I think selecting a great outcome and a very ambitious target, and working together in partnerships in order to resolve those that big ambition. Because I think that we are in that stage of really being a changer for the citizen and the industries.
Super. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your stories and sharing your journeys with us. I'll see some of you again for the Q&A later on.